My boyfriend visits his ex-girlfriend's grave every year and I never stopped him. Until this year, when we were about to get engaged, his ex-girlfriend, who he had been visiting for years, suddenly showed up. She said she wasn't dead, but had suffered from amnesia for years and had only just regained her memory. On the day we were supposed to register our marriage, my boyfriend didn't show up. That night, I saw on trending topics that he had bought an expensive diamond ring for his ex-girlfriend as a birthday present. When my family found out, they blamed me for not securing my boyfriend's heart. Instead of letting this opportunity to enter a wealthy family slip away, they said I should give it up to my younger sister so she could try to win his heart. Feeling heartbroken, I decided to leave, but then I was in a severe car accident. When I opened my eyes again, I found myself back at the day when my boyfriend had been severely injured in a car accident and was slowly recovering. That day he insisted on going in the pouring rain to visit his ex-girlfriend's grave. This time, I didn't try to persuade him to go another day. The next thing I knew, he had fallen off a hillside and his legs were at risk of being paralyzed. The first day I returned to City A, Thomas' mother blocked me at the door. "Where have you been?" "My son has had an accident, and the doctor said he could be paralyzed." "As his girlfriend, why didn't you stop him? You let him go out in the rain to visit his ex." Thomas' mother cursed and yelled, wearing her expensive outfit, completely at odds with her rude attitude. She looked like a completely different person from the rich lady she tried to portray. Her frantic demeanor reminded me of the first time I was interviewed by the media when Thomas and I started dating. The reporter asked for her opinion about me. She looked at the camera, completely dismissive, and said, "Just think of it as my son buying happiness at a high price." She not only belittled me but also reduced me to a mere object. This incident almost led to our breakup. At that time, my parents secretly borrowed $1 million from Thomas, and when the media found out, they spread rumors that I was a gold digger. Thomas personally clarified the situation and publicly declared that he couldn't live without me. I was so moved by his protectiveness. At one point, I had objections to his yearly visits to his late ex-girlfriend. Although I never stopped him, I always had a knot in my heart. But after Thomas publicly protected me, I began to think he was truly loyal and worthy of my trust for life. However, I forgot one thing. A living person cannot compete with a deceased one, especially not a deceased one who has a place deep in his heart. Seeing my indifferent expression, Thomas' mother rushed at me to slap my face. I dodged and she missed, falling heavily to the ground. She screamed in pain, but I couldn't be bothered to help her up. I just turned around and went to open the door. My sister came out first. When she saw Thomas' mother sitting on the ground, she immediately ran over to help her, fawning over her like a servant. After Thomas' mother got up, she immediately pushed my sister aside and disdainfully brushed off where my sister had touched. She turned and shouted at me, "You slut, you will never be allowed in my family's business." "I don't care." My indifference froze her expression. After all, I had always been respectful to her for Thomas' sake. My sister, pretending to be upset, said, "Sister, how can you treat an elder like this? It's so disrespectful." But her eyes were filled with uncontrollable joy. She liked Thomas. In order to resemble me, she secretly underwent plastic surgery to make herself look like me. But she ended up getting her nose done wrongly and spent a lot of money fixing it. When my parents found out, they, who never used to invite me to family dinners, suddenly started asking me to bring Thomas along every time. During dinner, they would deliberately send me away to give them time alone. No matter how much my sister tried to cozy up to Thomas, he never crossed any lines. So, my sister fabricated rumors, bribed the media to spread false stories that Thomas' true love was her. My parents also intentionally spread rumors outside, saying that every time Thomas visited, he was overly gentle and attentive to my sister, making them look like a couple. My parents had always favored my sister, giving her the best of everything. When they learned that my boyfriend was the heir to a family business, they started calling me non-stop, belittling me from head to toe, just to force me to let my sister have him. Seeing me argue with Thomas' mother, my sister was overjoyed. Her face twisted with barely contained glee as she tried to hide her smile. At that moment, she was hoping for a complete fallout between me and Thomas' mother, so she could take my place and marry into the wealthy family. I ignored her, locked the door behind me, and went inside. She was outside, still flattering Thomas' mother, trying to earn her favor. But all she got was one response. "Shameless thing, get away from me." After cursing my sister out, Thomas' mother yelled at the door. "Get out here. Come with me to see my son. If it weren't for him insisting on seeing you, I wouldn't have set foot in here." No matter how much she yelled outside, I didn't care. I didn't know how much time passed, but soon enough, there was no more noise outside. That night, a friend of Thomas called me. I had been with Thomas for years, but had never entered his social circle. Those people looked down on me and I couldn't be bothered to fit in with them, so I avoided any contact. "Do you know Thomas is in the hospital?" The cold voice on the phone shocked me. If he hadn't introduced himself, I wouldn't have even known these people had my number. "And what about it?" I asked. "Not long ago he had an accident and now needs crutches to walk." As his girlfriend, why didn't you stop him from going up the mountain in such terrible weather? Now he's even more injured. His legs may be paralyzed, and when he needed you the most, you ignored his calls and messages. Did you block him? I knew very well that no one could stop Thomas from visiting his late ex-girlfriend. But they still made me out to be the villain. Knowing he wasn't fully recovered and still insisted on going to visit his ex-girlfriend just shows he doesn't value his own health. I tried to stop him, but he would just think I was jealous of the dead. Besides, I broke up with him a week ago, so we're practically strangers now. The next day after I came back to life, I broke up with Thomas. Last time, I didn't know the cause of his accident. I thought it was an accident. This time, I checked the surveillance footage. He had been severely injured while protecting his ex-girlfriend's sister. When I suggested breaking up, he thought I was joking, especially since we were already talking about marriage. He rubbed his nose, looking exhausted, and said, "Can't you stop causing trouble right now? You're really annoying." Every year, before the anniversary of his ex-girlfriend's death, he would get into this melancholic state. So his circle of friends always said his true love would always be the same one. The phone call went silent. Just as I was about to hang up, he spoke slowly. "You're not breaking up with him because of his injuries, are you? He's been under a lot of pressure to be with you all these years. How could you break up with him now? Your heart must be so cruel. I've always paid for everything when we were together. Gifts went both ways." His parents publicly insulted me and I endured it. People in your circle looked down on me and I endured it. Why do you think he's the only one under pressure? What about me? He's been visiting his dead ex every year, and every time the media calls me a substitute, like I'm not his real girlfriend, just some disposable toy. I've endured it because I love him. By now, my voice was choked with tears, and I couldn't stop crying. I had loved Thomas. Last year, when we were about to get married, I was so happy, feeling like the luckiest and most blessed woman in the world. But the result was a sudden breakup. And it happened on the very day we were supposed to register our marriage. I waited the whole day, tried calling him non-stop until the civil affairs office closed. It was as if he had vanished. But that night, I found out he had bought a sky-high diamond for his ex-girlfriend as a gift. I hated him. So this time, I didn't try to stop him from going to visit his ex-girlfriend, but let him do as he pleased. Whether he ended up paralyzed or not, it had nothing to do with me. I hung up the phone before the person could speak again and blocked the number. Then I called my friend. After explaining everything, my friend was furious, gritting their teeth. They promised, "Don't worry, I'll take care of it." 2 days later, a rumor suddenly spread. A young lady from a fallen family had pretended to be dead and amnesiac for true love, and was now living in a secluded fishing village. Since no names were mentioned, it caught the curiosity of gossiping netizens. The power of the internet was immense, and soon enough, people began to guess it was Mia. Could it be Mia, who went to teach in a poverty-stricken area and was thought to have died in a mudslide? She didn't die. It was her boyfriend who killed someone by accident. She took the blame because her family was rich and paid off the victim's family so she wouldn't go to jail. This comment quickly became the top post of the day. What I didn't expect was that the most powerful person in Thomas' circle called me. The first thing he said was, "Why do you need to slander someone who's already dead? Thomas' feelings for her are just a memory. She's gone and it won't affect your place. How could you not tolerate her?" Before he could finish, I hung up the phone. He was confused and tried calling again, but this time, I blocked him. Evening. A headline about a famous actor's marriage falling apart quickly overshadowed the news of Mia, and it was clear that someone had been working behind the scenes for damage control. My goal had already been achieved, and I didn't care where things went from here. My parents pretended to care and called me, asking if I had broken up with Thomas. Once they got my confirmation, their tone became ecstatic. I knew you didn't have the ability to marry into a rich family. Luckily, we still have your sister. She's been taking care of Master Lin in the hospital these days. Their relationship is going great, though it's a pity about Master Lin's legs. The doctors say there's a high chance of paralysis, but the family business has plenty of money, so they'll just hire more servants. Your sister's destiny is to become the wife of a wealthy family. Her task is to carry on the family legacy. I smiled without saying a word. Since they firmly believed my sister would marry Thomas, let them keep dreaming. I wasn't going to waste my breath on things and people that had nothing to do with me. The phone call was just a test to see if I had truly given up on Thomas. And once they got their answer, they quickly hung up. Not once did they offer any words of comfort. My disappointment in them had accumulated over the years. So, I wasn't sad at all. A few days later, Thomas' mother arrived with 2 bodyguards. She insisted on dragging me to the hospital to see her son. The bodyguards were smashing at the door, and I was calling the police inside. But the police were still too late, and I was taken to the hospital. In the VIP hospital room, Thomas looked awful, pale with dull eyes. When he saw me, he froze for a moment, then quickly climbed out of bed. 2 nurses rushed to stop him, and my sister ran over to help him, but he pushed her away. "Lucy, you finally came to see me." His eyes lit up immediately, and he reached out his hand to me, his gaze filled with a bit of pity and grievance. To anyone else, it looked like he loved me deeply. I stood there, indifferent. Thomas' mother slapped my arm angrily and gritted her teeth. "My son is calling you. Are you deaf?" She didn't want me to have any contact with Thomas, but Thomas had caused trouble by refusing to cooperate with his treatment. She had no choice but to drag me here. I slapped her hand away and coldly said, "Are you out of your mind? Kidnapping me here? Wait until the police arrive and you can explain it to them." My sister scolded me angrily. "Sister Thomas is in this condition and you're still making trouble? Can't you have some filial piety?" I ignored her and turned to leave. Just as Thomas was being assisted onto a wheelchair, he suddenly rushed at me. He fell to the ground with a loud crash, obviously from a heavy fall. I didn't turn around and kept walking forward. But as soon as I reached the door, I bumped into someone. It was the most powerful person in Thomas' circle even. Behind him was someone else. Mia. Thomas, who had been struggling, instantly went quiet when he saw Mia. They locked eyes, filled with unspoken love. Mia, with red eyes, rushed forward, taking Thomas' hand and softly calling, "Thomas, I'm back." Thomas' eyes shone with excitement and joy. He tightly held Mia's hand, afraid that she would disappear again. I had originally planned to leave, but seeing this scene, I couldn't help but stop, wanting to watch this reunion unfold. Thomas' mother widened her eyes in shock. Seeing Mia approach, she raised her hand and slapped Mia twice across the face. "You shameless woman. You took my money yesterday and promised you'd never see my son again. You already have a husband and kids. How dare you come here?" Furious, Thomas' mother slapped Mia several more times after the initial 2. Apparently, when the news first broke, she had suspected I was the one behind it. She knew I wasn't someone who caused trouble for no reason, let alone spread rumors about someone who had already died. So, she had someone investigate where I had been recently. Following the trail, she found Mia's whereabouts. In the previous life, Mia had pretended to be dead to gain Thomas' sympathy, and it had worked. She had returned to being the shining light in his life. This time, before Mia could make her move, I had already guided them to find her, taking the lead and leaving her no way out. Thomas rushed to stop his mother, but his movements were slow and he fell off the wheelchair again. Mia immediately kneeled in front of Thomas' mother, crying, "Auntie, I heard Thomas is in bad health, and I was really worried. That's why I came to see him. As for the money you gave me, I'll return it now. I promise I'll leave once Thomas gets better and I'll never appear in front of him again." Thomas was furious. "Mom, how could you use money to insult Mia's character? She's finally back and you can't treat her like this." Thomas' mother, now completely enraged, shouted, "Are you blaming me?" She faked her death and hid away with some other man in a remote mountain village. She had a carefree life while you're over here worshipping her. You ruined your legs by visiting her grave. How could I have given birth to such a brainless child? She played you like a fool, and your love is nothing but a joke. I don't like Lucy, but I'm even more disgusted by Mia. If you insist on being with that woman, I'll sever all ties with you." It was clear that Thomas' mother was beyond furious. Her face was twisted in rage. Mia quickly tried to explain, "Auntie, I was young and foolish. I missed my chance with Thomas, but now I've woken up. The person I truly love is Thomas. Always has been, always will be. Please, give me one more chance." She kept bowing and pleading, looking sincere. In this life, the excuse of amnesia no longer worked. Thomas' mother and Thomas had both sent people to investigate before finding Mia. They knew for sure she wasn't suffering from amnesia. So, Mia could only claim that her true love was Thomas and that she had been deceived by the so-called true love. I stood there, watching the drama unfold, when Ivan suddenly spoke to me. "I'm sorry, I misunderstood you before." I shrugged without saying anything. I had no goodwill toward people in their circle. They had never looked at me kindly, always thinking I was unworthy of Thomas because of my background. Looking back now, Mia's family may have fallen from grace, but they had always been forgiving toward her, possibly because she was once part of their circle. And me? I was never part of that world. So, they rejected me from the start. I used to not care. Now, I couldn't be bothered to associate with them. A loud slap interrupted my thoughts. I looked up to see Thomas' mother slap Mia several more times. The force was so strong that Mia's mouth started bleeding, and her face became swollen. She looked utterly pathetic. At this point, I found the scene somewhat boring and turned to leave. Ivan followed behind me, seemingly still wanting to apologize, but I was too indifferent to him and ignored him. He couldn't find any excuse to talk to me. As we neared the hospital entrance, he hurried to catch up and handed me a business card. "If you ever need help, feel free to reach out. I owe you one." I didn't want to take it, but he shoved it into my hand. I smirked, turned, and threw the business card into the trash. No matter how powerful his connections or status were, they had nothing to do with me. I already had new plans. I was leaving this wretched place. In this life, I would live for myself. Even, seeing that I didn't care at all, frowned slightly. "Do you really hate us this much?" I nodded honestly. "I find you all disgusting." Seeing my bluntness, Ivan was momentarily at a loss for words. His eyes were filled with surprise. In his view, I should have been fawning over them like a lapdog, flattering these rich people, especially since I had just broken up with Thomas and would find it difficult to even meet them in the future, let alone ask them for help. Seeing the stunned expression on his face made me feel great as I turned and walked away. 1 week later, I completed my resignation process and chose the country I would study abroad in. To my surprise, Thomas' mother somehow found out about my plans to leave the country. She must have realized that I no longer had feelings for her son, especially with Mia returning. She feared that Thomas might cause trouble at home because of Mia. She came to see me, looking forced and no longer with the same condescending attitude, though her demeanor wasn't much better. "I won't waste time on useless talk. I came to ask you to take Thomas away from Mia. Whether you want to marry into the family business, or just want money, I'll give it to you." It seemed that she hated Mia even more than she hated me. I sneered but didn't say anything. She glared at me. "What do you mean by that?" "I mean, just looking at you makes me feel disgusted. While I'm still polite, I suggest you leave. I don't want to marry into your family business. I don't want anything to do with Thomas. And I don't want your money." Thomas' mother had always believed that I was with Thomas for money. To her, true love was a joke. Only a match in social status mattered. I had never denied her assumption more often than not. A good match in status is the key to a lasting relationship. But I had never thought of relying on Thomas. I had worked hard, earned certifications, and climbed my way to become a director. My abilities were well recognized, and even if I separated from Thomas, I could still live a comfortable life. Thomas' mother trembled in anger, pointing at me as she cursed, "You ungrateful thing." Watching her meltdown, I felt a sense of relief and smiled. If you had any dignity, you wouldn't have come to find me. Mia was Thomas' white moonlight, and if she wanted to break them apart, she would inevitably offend Thomas. Don't be fooled by her threats of severing mother-son ties with Thomas. She was terrified that Thomas would leave the family business for Mia. She only had one child, but Thomas' father had children elsewhere. It was previously reported that his father had a family in Europe, with a wife and 2 mixed-race children. His grandfather didn't like the British woman or the children, so his father hadn't brought them back. This year, with his grandfather on his deathbed, his father had stayed in Europe for 3 months before returning. Many people speculated that his father would bring the mixed-race children back, but the timing wasn't right. Now, Thomas had messed up, and his injury was very likely to cause paralysis. His father couldn't allow the heir to the family business to be a cripple, unless his grandfather wrote a will before he died, leaving the company to Thomas. Otherwise, everything was uncertain. My words successfully drove Thomas' mother away, her face full of anger. I have to say, Mia was skilled. Within just a few days of returning, she had taken over all the headlines. At first, most people were criticizing her, but slowly, some online trolls started to redirect attention to her love story with Thomas, and soon a large group of young girls began to speak for her. Mia initially wanted to announce her return to boost her popularity, but the internet has a long memory. Everything she had done in the past was still documented and remembered. After being ridiculed online, she quickly went into hiding and stopped speaking, choosing to handle the matter quietly. I was surprised when Thomas called me from another number. After all, Mia, the long-lost love, had returned and was taking care of him. There was no reason he should remember someone like me. "Lucy, can we talk?" His voice sounded tired. "Either say what you want or hang up." I had no desire to meet him. "Don't hang up. I just want to hear your voice." His voice became anxious and carried a hint of pleading. I sneered, "Thomas, who are you putting on this act for? Don't forget, I gave you a choice back then. When I broke up with him, I didn't do so without reasons. Our family backgrounds, our social circles, and the challenges we would face in the future. Most importantly, I questioned whether his feelings for me were real. He knew that every year, when he went to visit the grave of his ex-girlfriend, I would be mocked, but he still continued as if nothing was wrong. He told me, "Mia is no longer with us. The person I love now is you, but I can't let go of her." How ridiculous! How could I have been moved by such a lie? There was silence on the other end of the line. Because he had chosen his ex-girlfriend. I sneered and reminded him, "You told me she is the only one I'll ever care about in this life." With that, I hung up the phone. 1 week before I was due to fly to another country, the family business held a rare press conference. Or rather, Thomas' mother alone invited a group of media outlets to attack Mia. On camera, she looked heartbroken as she tearfully claimed that Mia was despicable, that she faked her death, ran off with another man, and even had several children. Now she had returned to cling to her son, and her son, being sentimental, wanted to marry her. Clearly, Thomas' mother wanted to ruin Mia, even if it damaged her relationship with Thomas. Her hatred for Mia was deeper than I had imagined. This whole operation didn't change anything, except to show the stance of the family business and Thomas' mother. Some reporters captured footage of Mia still personally taking care of Thomas in the hospital. Not only that, she even brought her youngest daughter, who looked remarkably like her, to the hospital room. Mia knew how to play the game well. She couldn't hide the fact that she had children, so she might as well try to get Thomas to accept them, even if it was just one. Once the reporters captured this, it became another huge joke. On the day I was leaving, my best friend came to see me off. We chatted and laughed as we got out of the car. She helped me with the suitcase, complaining that it felt like I packed bricks because the wheels were barely turning. I laughed and patted her head, realizing I forgot my handbag, and quickly went back to the car to grab it. In less than 10 seconds, I heard my friend scream from outside the car. The next second, a car slammed into my friend. The impact was so strong that the car was pushed several meters forward. I was just inside the passenger seat getting my things when the airbag deployed, protecting my head. However, my body still took a hit. Ignoring the pain, I rushed out to check on my friend. She was lying on the ground, the suitcase in front of her. A white car with a damaged bumper had stalled and couldn't move anymore. I yelled for help while checking on my friend. Her forehead was bleeding and she was unconscious, the situation looking very bad. Luckily, the airport security arrived quickly, followed by the police. The driver of the white car was soon restrained. When the police arrested the driver, I was shocked. It was Mia's sister. She thought her scheme had succeeded, and at first she was smiling. But when she realized the person on the ground wasn't me, but a stranger, she widened her eyes and yelled, "Lucy, how are you okay?" The ambulance arrived shortly, and my friend was taken to the hospital. After examination, it turned out my friend had a broken arm, severe concussion, and slight internal bleeding in her stomach. I waited outside the operating room, my body trembling uncontrollably. When Evan arrived, my friend's surgery had just been completed. The doctor said everything went well and that she just needed to rest. I breathed a sigh of relief. Evan also seemed to relax, saying, "I'll cover all of your friend's medical expenses, including future care costs. No need, I can afford it. I didn't come here to talk for them, but since this happened and it's related to you, I just want to show some concern." "Thanks a lot," I mocked. I ignored him. My friend's family didn't blame me. They even encouraged me, saying that bad people do bad things, and good people can't always defend themselves. They told me to relax. With their understanding, I truly felt lighter. My friend woke up quickly, and her first words were, "I've delayed your plans to study abroad." I burst into tears. I insisted on taking care of her until she was discharged from the hospital. If it hadn't been for her, I would have been the one lying in that hospital bed. 1 week later, I picked her up from the hospital. To my surprise, Thomas was standing at the hospital entrance. I ignored him. My friend snorted and mocked, "Oh, you're not going to bail out your mistress and her sister, but you have time to come here? You want to come crawling back, huh?" Thomas' eyes never left me, filled with burning intensity. It made me feel a little disgusted. I grabbed my friend and left. In the distance, Thomas sat in his wheelchair, looking somewhat pitiful. Evan pushed him, and both of them stared in our direction. Half a year later, I was abroad. My friend called me and said, the family business had been emptied. After his grandfather passed away, his father silently started transferring assets, and now the family business was just a shell, with only Thomas and his mother left holding it up. His father never mentioned divorce. He didn't want to waste time on that. He just never returned to the country, as if he had no attachments to anyone or anything here. Mia and her sister spent half a year in prison before being released. The Zhao family had already fallen from grace and refused to accept them. They went to find Thomas, hoping he would support them, but Thomas had woken up. He refused to let them back into the family business, and publicly declared that he had no relationship with them, telling them not to get ahead of themselves. Bad people get their comeuppance. They all met their end. And I? At this moment, I was basking in the sunlight, living every day peacefully.